A few months ago, I made a video about Danny Phantom and the introduction of Vlad as an antagonist early on in the series. It highlighted how well Vlad as a character played a role in the continuity of the show and how perfectly this show landed its use of foreshadowing, among other things. This video is a continuation of that one, so I'll have it linked down in the description just in case you missed it. I will point out though that you can totally watch that one after this one, and it should still flow just as fine. That's the thing about Danny Phantom as a show. It's one that flawlessly mixes the worlds of overarching story plotlines and one-shot stories in the same go. Like, as a new viewer, you can pick a random episode of this show throughout any season, and usually they'll give you enough info to be able to digest the story from start to finish and not have too many questions. On the other hand though, if you're someone who's watching the series from start to finish, you'll notice that in a lot of these one-shot episodes, they tend to sneak in references that build upon stories that had been previously told in other episodes. A lot of times, that tends to be done in very subtle ways, or slowly built up bit by bit over time. Today, on our nostalgic walk down memory lane, we're going to check out an episode of Danny Phantom that really showcases that point very well in my opinion. It's an episode that continues our deep dive into the dramatic rivalry between Danny and Vlad in a very interesting way. This one really highlights just how vile of a person that Vlad is, and it plants a lot of really interesting seeds that end up blooming into insane plot points later on. On top of that though, it's overall a really great episode. Before we dive into it though, really quick, I just wanted to say that I hope you're having an amazing day and that you enjoy this video. If you do, all I ask is that you please consider subscribing and clicking the notification bell. It's a great way to help you stay in the loop for my future videos, plus it helps me out tremendously. If you're already subscribed, thank you so much for being here and for being a part of my YouTube journey. You are the absolute best, and I appreciate you more than words could ever say. I need to ask you for just one more favor though. Let me know in the comments down below what your favorite ghost from Danny Phantom is. Is it Danny himself? Are you more of a Skulker fan, or are you on Team Box Ghost? Sound off in the comments below because I always love seeing your guys' feedback. Today, we're gonna build further on our understanding of Vlad's grudge towards Danny's family by checking out the Season 1 episode, Shades of Grey. This one begins over at Casper High School, where we see Danny running full speed and screaming in terror with his bully Dash in hot pursuit behind him. We learn that Dash is angry about getting a D on his spelling test, so he plans to take out some of that pent-up aggression on Danny. Meanwhile, not too far away, we see some popular kids talking in the hallway.
I so much love that top. Isn't it sweet? $579 and worth every one of my dad's pennies. Please hurt the unpopular boy for me.
Hey, accidents happen. All right.
Danny runs away in fear with two huge angry football players in pursuit of him. Thankfully, he remembers that he has ghost powers at the last moment, and he uses them to phase through the floor for a quick escape. Unfortunately, his safety outside doesn't last long, however, as that familiar ghostly haze abruptly starts flowing from his lips.
It's like Dash, but with better breath. Now this I can handle. Or not.
We abruptly cut on over to a massive laboratory facility called Axion. Inside, we see a man explaining all of the high-tech security features that have been freshly installed, making it what he claims to be the most secure facility in the United States. We learn that this man is none other than Valerie's dad.
Well done, Damon. You can feel free to bill me the remainder of your fee.
Which means I can replace this top.
It's good to know that those smelly security dogs are now a thing of the past.
you?
The giant ghost dog phases through the security measures and right into the lab. With Danny right behind him in pursuit, the dog proceeds to essentially destroy the entire lab, running around and biting stuff. The security team follows them, and in their attempt to stop Danny and the dog, they make things drastically worse and cause quite a bit more damage. Valerie's dad decides to activate the security system, claiming that nothing can get past it. However, much to his dismay, Danny and the dog are able to simply phase right through it with their ghost abilities and make a quick escape.
I'm fired, aren't I?
You're not just fired, you're ruined.
Whoa, talk about rock bottom. They're selling everything they own in a yard sale.
I feel bad. If I could have stopped that ghost dog, none of this would have happened.
Tucker, noticing that Valerie is having a hard week, decides that this is the perfect time to try to catch her on the rebound and sweep her off of her feet. He walks up to shoot his shot, and it goes right about as well as you'd expect.
Hey, Val. I heard what happened.
Oh, great. Word's already oozed down to the bottom of the social grapevine.
Hey, come on. I know you're upset, but he just wants to help. We all do.
I don't.
Most of us do. More than 2/3.
Thanks, but I'll pass.
Just then, Danny senses a ghost approaching, and he quickly says that he has to go as he takes off on his scooter, leaving his friends and Valerie very confused. Right after he leaves though, the ground erupts in a shaking rumble, and the giant ghost dog breaks through the Earth's crust, causing damage to Valerie's belongings in the process.
How'd you get out of the ghost zone? Well, ghost dogs are a lot more entertaining than regular dogs. Oh, great. Invisible dog do.
Whatever you are, get out of here. You and your stupid dog have done enough.
Just then, the dog jumps up, grabbing Danny by the leg and dragging him around. The dog drags Danny into Valerie's dad's moving truck, and they end up completely destroying everything inside. Then Danny just kind of leaves without saying a word to her. After that, we see Danny at his house, opening up his parents' ghost portal to toss the dog back into the ghost zone. However, as soon as Danny leaves, we see the ghost dog immediately phase right back through the portal and out of Danny's house. After that, we cut to the next day at school, where the popular kids are sitting at their lunch table talking about how excited they are for a concert that they're going to tonight.
Dumpty Humpty rocks! Hey, Val, we're down for the concert, right?
Sorry, guys. I had to sell my ticket online to help pay for the moving truck. Things are kind of tight now, you know?
No.
Nuh-uh.
Not really.
And speaking of tight...
I get it.
As Tucker sits nearby, watching Valerie get snubbed by her friends and going to sit by herself, he decides to yet again swoop in and try to win her over. Unfortunately for him though, mid-pitch, the ghost dog shows up yet again. However, this time the dog seems extremely angry at Valerie for some reason. It takes her lunch and rips it to shreds and barks at her aggressively. She screams in fear, and the dog starts running around the lunchroom crazily. Danny, having seen the dog jump into the school, springs into action, luring the dog out of the school.
Ghost. What are you gonna do, huh?
Ghosts? Oh my gosh, ghosts!
After that, we cut to the nearby city of Elmerton, where their catchphrase is, "We're getting better." On the top floor of a densely packed apartment building, we see Valerie's dad opening a window in the new place that they call home. He's telling Valerie about how he tried his best to convince his work to give him one last chance, and they agreed, so he's been assigned to guard the lab while they rebuild from all the damage that was caused.
Oh, that's great. How many of your employees can you put on it?
I don't have any more employees. I have to guard it myself, at night, in that.
Nice. And if things get worse, you can use that outfit to deliver packages.
Which reminds me, this arrived while you were at school today, from Wisconsin?
Just then, her dad's alarm goes off and he rushes out the door, saying that he doesn't want to be late. After he leaves, Valerie opens up the package, and inside she finds a letter.
Heard about your recent ghost troubles. Hope this helps, Vlad. Don't know who you are, Vlad, but if this thing does what I think it does, I can't say that I care.
Valerie!
I'm okay.
As that's happening, we cut on over to Amity Park, where we see Danny and Sam in a field as he tells her all about the ghost dog and how he's been struggling with it. Sam says that whether it's a ghost or not, it's still a dog, so the easiest answer here is to try and train him. She walks off wishing him luck, and she tosses him a book about dog obedience.
A dog's hearing is much more acute than a human's, which means... hand signals along with vocal commands can be a powerful combination. Stop! That's weird. This dog's already trained.
As Danny continues working with the dog, we see a missile out of nowhere just come hurling at him. Danny reacts swiftly and jumps out of the way, setting the dog down and telling him to stay. He comes back to investigate, and he's met by a rather clumsy ghost hunter in a sleek red jumpsuit aboard a hoverboard. Danny flies off with the ghost hunter in pursuit, and it's not long before she finds herself in a position to attack him.
Wow! Nice aim. First day with the new weapons? Ow! That hurt! Wait a minute. That hurt.
Oh, don't worry, Ghost Kid. It won't hurt long. Because you are going down!
Valerie, the ghost hunter, shoots her plasma gun at Danny, falling in the process, but thankfully the dog grabs Danny by the ankle, dragging him out of harm's way. Valerie gives chase, continuing her blasts. However, she crashes into a tree and takes a pretty tough spill. Danny then takes just a second to toss a spectral ball for the dog to keep him distracted.
Sam, hide!
No time!
No escaping me now!
Ah! Do you mind?
Oh, gross loser love. I always knew you two geeks would end up together.
That sounded like Valerie. Danny? Danny? You didn't think it was a real kiss, did you?
No. Why? Did you?
The next day at school, we see Sam, Tucker, and Danny walking through the hall, talking about how Sam and Danny made out, when all of a sudden, Tucker bumps into Valerie. Sam and Danny walk off, leaving Tucker to talk with Valerie by himself. He helps her pick up the books that she dropped, which he's surprised to see are all about catching and defeating ghosts.
When did you get so interested in ghosts?
When they ruined my life?
You know, I happen to know a thing or two about ghosts.
Please, I'm broke. I'm not stupid.
Seriously, did you know Danny's parents are professional ghost hunters?
No, I didn't know that. Hey, Tucker! Do you want to carry my books for me?
Great. My best friend has a crush on a ghost hunter.
The day continues on, and Danny is on edge nonstop about the fact that the ghost dog could pop up at any moment. On top of that, though, Tucker and Valerie are hanging out now, and he knows that she's the ghost hunter who's after him. She ends up sitting with them at a basketball game, and she asks Danny about his parents' ghost hunting, but they're interrupted by the ghost dog, who jumps onto the basketball court, disrupting the game and causing quite a bit of chaos. Both Danny and Valerie decide to jump into action, each donning their individual alter egos and going after the dog. Danny finds the dog behind the bleachers and is able to calm him down pretty quickly, leading to him shrinking down again.
You're looking for something? What are you looking for? Sam was right. Ghost dog or not, you're still a dog, and you're looking for something.
Say goodbye, ghost boy. Aw, come on, you stupid thermos!
Oh my gosh, Danny's in trouble! Newsflash, that's your girlfriend.
That's awesome! Hey, Valerie, wait up!
Danny flies on over and he grabs Valerie, putting her into the basketball hoop for safekeeping while he goes to catch the dog. After that, we cut to class where we see Tucker, Sam, and Danny talking about Valerie and how messed up it is that Tucker still wants to be involved with her even though she wants to murder his best friend.
For once, the girl I like likes me back. Why can't you just roll with that? Not everybody has to like you, Danny. Don't you trust me?
You? Yes. It's your hormones I worry about.
Just then, Danny's ghost sense tingles again, and Valerie hears the dog barking outside. They both simultaneously ask to be excused as they each jump into action to catch the ghost dog. We see Danny flying away from her with the dog in tow as she keeps firing at him. He's able to pretty easily defeat her with just the point of his finger because she's so uncoordinated with her new gear, which surprisingly makes Danny feel bad for her.
Oh, this is my fault, sort of. I suppose I should do something to help Valerie. After I figure out what to do with you. Go on, boy. Fetch!
We cut to later that evening where we see that the dog has finally led Danny to none other than Axion Laboratory. The dog stands next to a wall barking like crazy when Danny hears somebody coming.
I appreciate the second chance, sir.
As long as nothing else happens, we'll see about reinstating your contract. I knew we never should have gotten rid of those guard dogs.
Valerie's dad? Oh, great.
Later on in the evening, we see Danny with Sam and Tucker outside of Axion Labs. Tucker knocked out the security cameras, and with Valerie's dad being the only security guard on duty, Danny is under the impression that getting in there and finding whatever it is the dog is looking for should be a breeze. He uses the Fenton Fisher to tie the ghost to a nearby tree, and he tells Tucker and Sam to stay behind and keep an eye on him. Meanwhile,
I think I'll go pick us up a little late-night snack. Will you be okay, honey? You got stuff to do?
I'm fine, Daddy. I've got everything I need right here. Ah!
Valerie?
I'm okay. Back to the scene of the crime.
Danny proceeds to fight Valerie, causing a ton of damage to the building in the process. When he gets launched out of the roof of the building, the dog sees him and ends up going crazy and ripping the tree out of the ground to get to Danny. Inside, Danny is mainly just focused on dodging all of Valerie's attacks.
You're a pretty lousy shot.
That's because I'm not trying to hit you. Can't we talk?
I'm done talking.
Yeah, you're welcome.
In the midst of the battle, the security alarm gets set off, and Valerie's dad ends up hearing it from the fast food restaurant across the street, alerting him to the fact that Valerie might be in trouble. In the heat of the battle, Valerie ends up hitting Danny with a good blast from her laser rifle, and it forces him through a wall and into what seems to be a long since forgotten part of Axion Labs.
An old kennel. This must be where they kept all the guard dogs. Huh? Hey, boy! Is this what you've been looking for? No, it's okay. Does you want your squeaky? Oh, does you?
Infatuated with its old lost squeaky toy, the ghost dog loses its angry interest in Valerie and happily focuses its full attention on Danny. He throws the toy for the dog, who catches it with joy, causing it to revert back to its small puppy state and finally move on to the afterlife. With the dog finally gone, Danny approaches Valerie in an effort to explain that that wasn't his dog and that he's really sorry about all the trouble that's been caused to her.
Not all ghosts are evil.
Yeah? And not all humans are saps, huh? Goodbye, ghost boy.
Valerie?
Oh no, my dad! I can't let him see me like this!
I'm sorry, but I can't help you there.
After Danny flies away, Tucker decides to rearm the security system and sacrifice himself to it in order to give Valerie's dad a reason for the alarm being triggered. We fast forward to the next day at school, where Danny and his friends are sitting at lunch and talking about the whole experience with the dog and Valerie the Ghost Slayer. Speak of the devil, right at that exact moment, Valerie walks through the lunchroom and past her old friends.
Just wish I knew where she got those weapons.
Or that costume. Costume that styling had to cost something, you know?
Well, I don't know where she got the weapons, but I think I know where she got some extra cash. Remember those concert tickets she sold on the internet?
As the episode comes to an end, we see Danny and his friends rocking out at the Dumpty Humpty concert, while the popular kids sit next to them, pretty much having had their entire time ruined by the simple fact that Danny and his friends got the tickets next to them. Now, looking back on this one in comparison to the last episode of Danny Phantom we checked out, there's a lot less Vlad in this one, obviously, but what's interesting is that despite him not saying a single word in either of his appearances throughout this episode, it still managed to add quite a bit of additional context to the overarching story between Vlad and the Fenton family that's been told so far and is continuing to develop as the episodes progress. Sure, this episode didn't star Vlad, but nevertheless, it still revolved around him in a sense. The small portions that did feature him really spoke volumes about his character and said a lot about him. His actions in this episode told us that Vlad isn't afraid to use anyone as a pawn in his game to eventually do away with Jack, steal Maddie, and take over the world. To him, everyone else along the way is irrelevant, and the idea of using a stranger for his benefit doesn't make him flinch whatsoever. That's exactly what happened in this episode. He used Valerie while she was at her lowest point. She went from living in a nice house in a good neighborhood where her dad was making a ton of money and funding her offensively expensive wardrobe to being crammed in a tiny apartment in a really rough city, feeling like she's had her whole life destroyed by ghosts. Then, out of the blue, when she's feeling like it's nothing but misery from here, she receives a package from a stranger who somehow knows exactly what she's going through. This complete stranger from Wisconsin somehow heard about her ghost troubles, even though she hasn't really talked to anyone about it. Yet, Valerie, being in the state that she's in, doesn't really second guess this at all. As a matter of fact, she blatantly says that she doesn't care who he is. She doesn't question where any of this came from, or how this random guy from states away knows what she's going through. She's got a one-track mind that has one mode: revenge. To Valerie, she's just thankful to have anyone there to assist her along the way. When we consider this episode from all angles, it's actually pretty sad, and it really makes me feel bad for Valerie in the long run. Now, hear me out here. We come into this episode with this pre-instilled understanding that Danny and Vlad have a really intense rivalry going, and Vlad made it very clear that Danny hasn't seen the last of him. Last we saw him, sure, Danny may have won the battle, but there's still a very long war ahead between the two. Again, going into this episode, if you've watched the handful of episodes before this one, you already know that's a factor, and that's kind of brewing in the background as part of the overarching story in this series. In this episode's one-off story, though, it's focused around the ghost dog, who Danny is trying to banish to the ghost zone, but it keeps coming back. Now, in the process of Danny trying to catch this dog, it ends up running to Axion Labs repeatedly, which of course is where Valerie's dad works. The dog destroys the lab, which leads to Valerie's dad losing his job, and effectively this ruins her life in multiple ways. It ruins her social life, in the sense that now that she isn't rich, her popular friends don't really want to hang out with her, leaving her with pretty much no friends. It also destroys her home life because her dad was forced to uproot her from the cushy life that they were used to living and move into one that's a lot different from what they're used to. What's even worse though, and adds a whole nother level of sadness to this whole situation, is when we take into consideration why all of this is happening. The ghost dog didn't just show up in the beginning out of nowhere with no direction in sight. It had something it was after, and it had a reason to be searching in the afterlife. The ghost dog found Danny in the beginning, and it was trying to ask him for help. Time and time again, we see the dog take Danny to Axion Labs, but it takes a while for Danny to connect the dots. If you pay attention to the dog though, you'd notice that the emblem on its collar that we saw in the beginning is none other than that of Axion Labs. This dog is the ghost of a security dog that used to work for Axion. In the end, we learn that he's coming back to the lab over and over in search of the kennels so that he can reclaim his squeaky toy that he left behind. The thing is though, we have to keep in mind where this episode started. Towards the beginning of this one, we see Valerie with her dad at Axion Labs while he gives his boss a tour of the new security features that he installed. As he's doing this, we hear his boss make this comment.
It's good to know that those smelly security dogs are now a thing of the past.
This right here tells us that those security dogs were recently alive and guarding the facility. That is, until Valerie's dad showed up and upgraded the security and replaced them. Now, one would think when a police canine retires from duty, they usually get to live out the rest of their lives being a pet. I'd imagine that a security dog working for a laboratory would see a similar retirement at the end of their career. However, the existence of this ghost dog in the context of everything happening and all of the changes to the facility tells us that the dogs likely met a more grim and sinister of an end to their career at Axion. They don't say it outright, but everything happening here is pointing to them murdering those security dogs. I have to point out that there really is a lot here that could support this theory as well. When we see the dog arrive at Axion for the first time, it ends up running around the lab and causing a lot of destruction, which one could interpret as being done in a fit of rage, having been angered by either the gruesome fate that it met at the hands of Axion, or possibly the way it had been treated during its tenure as a security dog there. However, it's also possible that it caused that much damage because, well, it's a dog and sometimes dogs are gonna dog. If that isn't enough for you though, keep in mind as well that this dog kept seemingly coming after Valerie. We see the dog arrive at her house out of nowhere while they're moving out, and we also see it come after her at school very angrily, might I add. It's definitely possible that the dog could associate Valerie with her dad because they're related, and as a result, the dog doesn't like Valerie, as her dad was the person that led to the dog's demise, or potentially was the one that could have done it. In all reality, that definitely could explain the dog's hostility towards her. With all that being said, and all the additional context in mind though, I have to circle back to my original point that I feel bad for Valerie in this one because all of the roads here lead to her being a casualty in the middle of all of this. She's a casualty of the war waging between Vlad and Danny, and she's a casualty of whatever happened between Axion Labs and possibly her dad and those security dogs. I gotta say that watching this episode as a kid who just took this one at face value, I saw Valerie as an antagonist through and through, and I never really liked her that much. As a result, I didn't exactly feel bad for her when I was younger. Looking back at this one though, when we don't think about Valerie the popular girl or Valerie the ghost hunter, but instead we just consider Valerie the teenage girl who's just trying to live her life, this one makes me feel really bad for her. She didn't want any of this. Her and her dad essentially had everything that he worked so hard for taken away from them, and they just hit rock bottom in a matter of a few days. It's sad to say too that this right here is just the tip of the iceberg. In later episodes, we would learn that this is just the start of the troubles for Valerie. Contained within just this episode though, I have to take a sec to analyze the interactions between Valerie and our three main characters, Danny, Tucker, and Sam. First of all, Sam is the easiest one. She very blatantly dislikes Valerie, and she doesn't even try to hide it. Valerie's family falls on hard times, and while Danny and Tucker are offering some help, Sam is just straight up like, nope, I'd rather not help. It makes sense, as Valerie has never really been anything but mean to her, and of course she thinks she's better than Sam. I can't blame Sam for not wanting to pretend that she likes Valerie just because Valerie's having the worst week of her life. Moving on from there though, Tucker's interactions with Valerie in this one were very desperate, for lack of a better word. I don't know. She was very direct with him in the fact that she's not interested in him or anything that he has to offer. However, Tucker is apparently one of those guys that doesn't know the meaning of the word no because he didn't let that stop him from trying. Like, this poor girl is at rock bottom and clearly having a tough time in her personal life, so what does Tucker do? See an opportunity to, quote, catch her on the rebound. On one hand, I get offering for her to sit with them at lunch, considering that her popular friends want nothing to do with her because they don't value her outside of her monetary wealth. But the rough part is that Tucker's motives behind all of this are kind of predatory in nature, and he isn't being nice out of the kindness of his heart. He's doing it because of his romantic interest in Valerie. Tucker's actions throughout this one were really just kind of icky, and I'm not a huge fan of the look that he portrayed here. I'll give him props for sacrificing himself in the end to help Valerie and her dad, but other than that, he just kind of gave off big, creepy, desperate vibes in this episode. Now, on the opposite end of the spectrum, however, we have Danny, whose actions towards Valerie in this episode were very genuine through and through. At no point does he do anything with negative intentions or in bad faith as it pertains to his interactions with Valerie. When it came to offering help, Danny seemed genuine. Then, even when he found out that she was the ghost hunter, he didn't want to hurt her. As a matter of fact, he went out of his way to shoot purposefully off target with his ghost blast so that he didn't hit her. Then, when things were looking their worst for Valerie as a ghost hunter, he started feeling bad for her. He realizes that he can beat her with straight up the point of a finger, meanwhile she barely even poses a threat to him. She struggles tremendously to keep balanced on her hoverboard, and while she can't shoot without falling. The only way she really hurt him at all was by shooting him point blank before he could react. The thing about Danny, though, is that much like Tucker and Sam, Valerie treats him like garbage. She thinks that she's better than him, yet he still reacts to her with respect and compassion for the most part. I think that somewhere inside, he recognizes that she's just caught in the crossfire of all this. He doesn't realize that she's being used by someone who has it out for him, but he does recognize that she was just caught in the middle of the whole situation with the ghost dog and Axion Labs. In the end, Danny even takes accountability for what happened to her, even though it isn't necessarily his fault per se. Danny is an empathetic person though. He recognizes that this girl is struggling and in a bad situation as a result of something that he was involved in. As the story progresses, we would see things with Valerie change drastically over time, but for now, I really appreciate how they approached this episode. The changing of her character and making her more of a focal point in the series is definitely something that would add a lot of benefit in the long run. The ending of this episode is a perfect one to foreshadow a lot of things to come. In the lead up to the final scene, we see Valerie leaving the lunchroom at school when she gets another package, this time hand-delivered by Vlad himself. That right there tells us that Vlad certainly isn't done, and that Valerie is certainly looking forward to working with him again in her pursuit of destroying ghosts. This also shows plain as day that for Danny, there's more trouble with Valerie to come in the near future. Outside of the expansion of the overarching plotline in this episode, there are a few other things that are worth pointing out as we wind down towards the end of this video. First of all, this episode really makes me wonder how it is that everyone sees Ghost Danny and doesn't connect the dots as to who he is in his normal form. Like, in my opinion, it's kind of weird that Valerie didn't recognize Danny because he honestly looks the same, just with different colored hair and eyes, as well as a different outfit. His face structure and his size are still exactly the same. Same goes for pretty much everyone else in this show, though. Like, if I recall correctly, there are quite a bit of people who see Danny in his ghost form, but don't recognize him as Danny Fenton. On a completely different note though, we definitely have to take a second to discuss that kiss between Danny and Sam in the bushes. First of all, we hear Valerie call them gross losers and say that she always knew they would end up together, and to that, I'm pretty sure the rest of us said same. Like, I'm 99% sure that everyone watching this show always wanted Danny and Sam to end up together eventually. This kiss definitely showed us that had a high likelihood of being a reality at some point. After they kiss, Danny has this look of complete blissful bewilderment on his face. Meanwhile, Sam just kinda seems confused by it more or less. This would be a big moment for these characters and would definitely leave us as viewers wondering if this would throw their friendship into question and curious as to if it would result in anything more than friendship. If there's anything else that I really want to touch on in closing, it would be that ending. We see Danny, Tucker, and Sam at a concert just having a blast and enjoying the music. All the meanwhile, directly next to them are the popular kids from school who are just completely having an awful time. These kids are so concerned with who they're sitting next to that they straight up let it ruin their time at the concert. This right here is just the dumbest thing ever. It's such a petty thing to be worried about, and it makes zero sense. I mean, when you're at a concert, you're usually going to see the band perform, and you want to have a good time. You're typically not going to be sweating a ton over who you're standing near or sitting next to. I mean, don't get me wrong, nobody wants to be stuck next to the wasted dancing guy swinging his shirt over his head while spilling his beer all over everyone, but outside of that sort of hijinks, there isn't much of a reason to look too far into who you're sitting next to. I get that this is the sort of thing they portray for the sake of showcasing how shallow the popular kids are at school, but regardless, it was just kinda stupid in my opinion. All in all though, this episode really is fantastic. I appreciate the way that they were able to add so much context to Vlad's story just by simply featuring him on the screen for a solid 8 to 10 seconds max. I also really enjoy the way Valerie was introduced as an antagonist and that they were able to build upon the relationship between multiple characters here. More than anything though, I'm really excited for where we're going next because the next part of this saga is truly a lot to take in. But what do you think? Are you excited to see where Vlad and Danny's story goes next? Let me know in the comments down below. I always love seeing your guys' feedback. Of course, massive shout out with so much love to my patrons, especially those of you in the true 90s kids tier. I truly appreciate your support, and I can't thank you enough for it. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to drop a like and let me know what you think down below in the comments, and as always, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace. Hello my friends, if you're still here, thank you so much for sticking around. I just wanted to take a sec to let you all know that I appreciate you so much, and I'm glad to be getting back into the swing of things. When my dad passed away in April, I really just kind of fell off the face of the earth for a minute. It was a really hard time for me, and it's still hard, but with time, you get used to it, so it is what it is. While I was going through those hard times though, you guys kept showing your support in the form of comments with well wishes, and I really appreciate that so much. It's been hard for me to get back into the groove of making videos and kinda catching up with everything, but I'm doing my best, and I just want to say thank you so much for bearing with me and for coming along for the ride. It means a lot to have the support of people like you who watch my videos, and words could never say how appreciative I am. In the process of falling off the face of the earth for a bit though, I stopped making videos for a while, and along with that, when I did make videos, I kind of just uploaded when I could instead of sticking to my schedule or anything like that. But I'm at a point where I'm finally catching up and going to be doing everything within my power to put out videos every Friday and Sunday going forward. So please make sure you keep an eye out for my videos because I've got some super cool stuff in store. I gotta say though, you guys, while I was off processing the loss of my dad, one of the things I missed most was getting together with you guys every Sunday for some Super Thanks Sunday shoutouts. Having the opportunity to talk directly with you guys in video form is something that I really cherish, and I'm happy to announce that I'm going to be bringing it back regularly again. If you want to be featured in Super Thanks Sunday, you can donate to me directly using the Super Thanks button below. You get a shout out from me, and in return, you get to help me support my wife and kids. The only catch is that you, pretty please, need to be patient because I'm trying my best to catch up on a ton of Super Thanks that I missed while I was away. First up, we have Untrusted Life with a whopping $50 donation on my video about Mr. Meaty. They said, before I even watch this video, I think I know what episode you're talking about. If it's what I'm thinking, this show really squicked me out when I was younger. I make horror indie games, and I think this one and Courage the Cowardly Dog are part of the reason why I make them. I guess I'll see if it's what I'm thinking. So, you guys, I responded to this comment, and spoiler alert, it was exactly what they were thinking. The Tapeworm episode of Mr. Meaty is one that is definitely burned into the brains of all the poor adults who saw it in their youth. Thank you so much for your donation, Untrusted Life. I appreciate that so much. If your horror creativity was sparked by shows like Mr. Meaty and Courage the Cowardly Dog, then I bet the games that you make are absolutely bonkers, my friend. Next up, we have Joker of Spades, who donated $5 and said, I just found your channel, and I'm already loving the videos. Thank you so much for the kind words, my friend. I know I'm very late, but welcome to the channel, and I'm happy to have you here. I appreciate your donation a ton, and I hope that you've been enjoying the videos. Next up, we have Miracle Jones, who donated $2, but their message was a little hard to decipher and there were a few typos. To sum it up though, they said, thanks, I love your videos and I appreciate your work. I really appreciate you doing Super Thanks Sunday and shouting out specific people who donated. It makes people feel like they're being talked to specifically, feel appreciated, and it puts a big smile on my heart. I remember seeing reruns of Mr. Meaty on TV, but it was hard to pay attention to because it was just really weird, and it made me think, who asked for this show? Thanks again for all of your hard work. I really appreciate what you do. Miracle Jones, thank you so much for your donation. I really appreciate it, and I'm so glad to hear that you enjoy Super Thanks Sunday. Knowing that it puts a smile on your heart puts a smile on my heart, so heart smiles all around, my friends. I know Super Thanks Sunday isn't everybody's cup of tea, but for me as a content creator, I really feel like talking directly with my audience in this segment is conducive to a positive YouTube ecosystem. Not a lot of creators take the time to respond to comments, let alone like directly address them in video form, and that's something that I feel like should be done more often. As a YouTuber, I couldn't do this without you guys, and I really appreciate the support that you all give me. It's a pleasure for me to take the time to respond to you guys directly, and I feel like doing this is a great way for a creator to interact directly with their audience. Thanks again for your support, Miracle Jones, and I'm glad to hear that we're on the same page about Mr. Meaty. Next up, we have Kaden Hicks, who donated $2 and said, hello, I'm a fast food worker at a terrible restaurant called Taco John's. I don't recommend it, though it does have the best tater tots ever. Anyways, I was only given enough hours to make it by, and in those hours I'm constantly finding myself overworked, having to do multiple jobs by myself. And even though I became a team lead, I didn't get a raise. So I got a lot more responsibility shoved on me for nothing in return. I've put in my 2 weeks because I had to get out of here as soon as possible for my mental health. And right now I'm trying to look for a new job, which is hard because I live in a small town. Any suggestions? That's also why I'm donating the minimal amount, but I also wanted to say thanks. Also, it's nice seeing how wholesome your content is, and it helps me de-stress and relax. Also, I can't imagine how hard it must have been as a 911 operator. Seriously, thank you for all the hard work you have and are still doing. You've definitely improved a lot of people's lives. Aw, thank you so much for your donation, my friend. I've never been to Taco John's, but apparently there's one in my nearest city, so I'll be sure to steer clear. Thanks for the warning. Honestly though, this sucks really hard. It's so unfair to be handed all this extra work without any extra pay. I don't blame you for putting in your 2 weeks. I probably would have done the same if I was being treated like that too. As far as recommendations go, being a 911 dispatcher was a fantastic job. However, it was really hard on my mental health. The thing is though, they get you in those golden handcuffs. The pay is usually fantastic, the benefits are usually out of this world, and the hours are guaranteed with a lot of overtime usually. It's hard to find a job that offers benefits like that. I recommend it for the pay and stuff, but as far as the mental health goes, definitely do not recommend. I'd say go for a nice comfy desk clerk job. Some of my favorite jobs I've had were in office settings, and they usually make for a pretty relaxed setting for the most part. With that being said though, I also definitely recognize that this comment is pretty old, so I'm curious what job you went with, my friend. You should totally hit us up with a follow-up comment so we can know where you ended up. Next up, we have JJJ6, who donated $2 and said, "This and Wormy from SpongeBob are two episodes I refuse to watch ever again, especially the latter. How they thought kids staring at a horsefly would be entertaining, I will never know. Always love your content, my dude. Please keep up your amazing reviews and discussions." Thank you so much for your kind words and your donation, Triple J. I really appreciate it. I totally see what you mean though. The close-up, gross-out scene of that bug in that episode was a lot to take in as a kid, for sure. It kind of plays into that close-up, gross-out kind of animation that we saw popularized by Ren and Stimpy, but instead of animation, they go the realism route and close in on something jarring. Thanks again for your support though, my friend. I really appreciate your kind words. Next up, we have James Madelinall, who donated $2 and said, "Love your vids. Hope you do a video on Teen Titans one day." Thanks so much for your support, James. I'd love to do another Teen Titans video. I did one a few years back, but it didn't do very well if I'm being honest. A lot of people love the traditional Nicktoons and like Cartoon Network videos, but for some reason, anytime I talk about superhero shows, everyone loses interest. Same goes for like Futurama and adult animation as well. It's a shame too though, because the original Teen Titans was a straight up phenomenal show with one of the most gripping stories that I've ever seen. I have a lot to say about that show, and maybe someday I will again, but for now, yeah, I have an older video on my channel about it if you want to check it out. Next up, we have Tenebrow Soul, who donated $2 and just said thanks. Of course, thank you so much, my friend. I'm so glad you enjoy the videos, and I really appreciate your support. Next up is KB Yay the Blobster, who donated $2 and said, "Hi Sean, if that's even your real name. I like your channel and I'm looking forward to part 2 of the Best Angry Beavers video. My favorite episodes are The Same Time Last Week and Fakin' It." Thank you so much for your support, KBA. I really appreciate you. Fun fact though, Sean actually isn't my first name, it's my middle name. Ever since I was a very little kid, I felt like my first name wasn't really fitting, so I've just kind of always gone by Sean. As far as Angry Beavers goes though, you got it, my friend. I'll add those episodes to my list of video ideas. Next, we have Animation Bliss, who donated $2 and said, "Hey, I really enjoyed your content, and I love the fact that you talk about 90s cartoons a lot, especially the Nicktoons from the 90s, which is my favorite era of Nickelodeon." Thank you so much for those kind words, and of course for your donation, my friend. I'm really glad to hear you like the videos. The 90s era of Nicktoons is my absolute favorite as well. I gotta say, there's nothing quite like a good old nostalgic walk down memory lane, right? Next up, we have Doug Couch, who donated $5 and said, "Hey man, I love your videos. Keep up the good work. Audio gang here too, as you know, I'm totally blind as well. Hope your channel grows, and I look forward to you uploading every week. Thanks, peace, keep up the good work." Doug, thank you so much. You are the man. Shout out to the Doug Couch Show. This guy puts on a cool show, and you should totally consider checking it out here on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. I totally appreciate my audio oldie gang. You guys rock so much. Thanks again, Doug. Next up, we have Meg Loves Sims, who's also in my 90s Kids tier on Patreon. Shout out, Meg. She donated a whopping $10 on my video about SpongeBob Season 1 and said, "I hope we get to see a Season 2 commentary video in the future. These videos are just pure nostalgia to me, and I love listening to them in the background while I work." Thanks again for all your hard work. First of all, Meg, thank you so much for all of your support. Words can't explain how much I genuinely appreciate you for being here and, of course, for being a part of my YouTube journey. I've been hard at work on my SpongeBob Season 2 review. It's gonna be incredibly long and very detailed, and I'm really proud with how it's coming along. If I'm being honest with you guys though, I started it a little while before my dad passed away, and that kind of put a huge pause on it for a while, but I'm hoping to get to wrapping it up here soon. You guys are gonna absolutely love it, but I still have quite a bit of work to do on it. Next up is Cocoa Butter Birdie, who donated $5 and said, "I'm so happy you finally did a video on Nigel Thornberry. I was waiting for this one. I've been here since before 10K, and it's been so cool watching you grow. I have a cake business and a full-time job. Long YouTube videos are a need for me, and it's always a good day when you drop one. Hey Arnold is also one of my favorite and one of the best shows of all time, and you get it. Please don't stop. Strange request, would you be interested in covering some 90s, 2000s Nick Jr. stuff?" Aw, thank you so much for your donation, my friend, and I hope your cake business is thriving. I appreciate you being here since the early days of my channel, and I am so glad that my long videos can keep you company while you're working. As far as Nick Jr. goes, I'm definitely interested in it, but I'm not too sure how to approach it. I loved shows like Blue's Clues, Little Bear, and Franklin when I was younger, but I'm not too sure how well that would land with my audience on this channel. It's definitely crossed my mind in a couple different ways though, that's for sure. Next up we have Winter Robinson, who donated $2 and said, "I love the content you produce. I listen to it at work and I just recently subscribed. I can't really give more than this at the moment, and you're the only person that I would give super thanks to simply because your content is very entertaining. And I've decided you get the coveted super thanks. As someone on the spectrum, you help fuel my animation special interest. You're awesome. Please continue to be awesome, and whatever you do, don't stop making content. Can I please make a suggestion for a video though? I would love to see you do a video covering Rocko's Modern Life if you haven't already, and I know you won't touch Cartoon Network at the moment because of safety, but I would love to see you do a video in regards to Rocko's Modern Life and Camp Lazlo together. Specifically because if you remember correctly, the actual camp counselor in Camp Lazlo was supposed to be Heifer, but unfortunately due to copyright, it couldn't be Heifer. So I'd love to see your take on this. Once again, thank you from the bottom of my heart. Maybe one day I might be able to donate more than this, but at the moment, this is all I can. Hope things continue to stay good for you, and please don't stop what you're doing. Also, another suggestion. When you do a series like Hey Arnold, you need to go ahead and do a compilation video, so for people like myself who listen at work, we can just push the one video and have it. Go for hours because I listen to those 3-hour long videos. They're great for when I'm at work, and I enjoy the long-form content. It makes work a lot more interesting, and it keeps me distracted from the noise of all the machines going. Your voice is very soothing. Keep up the awesome work. If anything seems out of place, I'm sorry. I use speech to text due to disabilities. Thank you so much for all of those kind words and for your donation, my friend. I really can't thank you enough for your support. It makes me happy to know that you enjoy my content, and I really do appreciate your suggestions. During the time that you made this comment, I definitely was avoiding Cartoon Network, but I've been dipping my toes back into that pool slowly but surely. I absolutely love the idea of making a video that highlights the failed crossover between Camp Lazlo and Rocko's Modern Life. Those two are some of my favorite cartoons. Joe Murray is such a creative person, and his cartoons are always really cleverly written. I remember hearing rumors about Heifer being the intended counselor, but I'll have to read a little further into it and get back to you. As far as making compilations of my series go, that's definitely something that I enjoy doing, and I do it every once in a while, but it's been a long time since I've done it. I probably should get back into it because compilations are a great way to revisit some of my older videos. Thanks again for your support, my friend. I really appreciate it. And I think that right there is where we're going to wrap up Super Thanks Sunday for now. I still have just an offensive amount to get through, but we'll get caught up even if it takes me forever. Thanks again for taking the time to watch this video, you guys, and I hope that you all have a fantastic week. Take it easy, and I'll see you next Sunday.